Hello everyone. How are you? How is work? How is education? How is love? How is life? I am here to share you an interesting story. I hope you will learn a lot from it. Stay with me. Thank you. It was a quiet Thursday evening. The kind where the only sound in the house was the ticking of the wall clock and the low hum from the refrigerator. Marianne sat alone at the dinner table, staring at her husband's empty chair. 30 years of marriage. And yet, this seat had felt empty for far too long. Once, it had been filled with laughter, jokes, deep conversations about their sons, and dreams of traveling after retirement. But now, silence. The kind of silence that creeps into your bones and settles there. The kind that whispers what your heart is afraid to say out loud. Marianne was 58. A mother of 2 grown boys, a part-time librarian, and a woman whose life had settled into a routine that felt more like sleepwalking than living. Her husband, Richard, was a kind man, faithful, steady, a provider in every traditional sense. But the spark, the warmth they used to share had vanished, like fog dissolving in the morning sun slowly, until one day it was just gone. She didn't go looking for love. She didn't plan to betray anyone. But when something inside you starts to starve and someone finally sees you, hears you, it's hard not to reach for it, even when you know the risk. His name was Daniel, a soft-spoken man with thoughtful eyes and a calm voice. He was a volunteer at the library. 40, single, a former English teacher who had left the classroom for quiet spaces and old books. Their first few conversations were brief, professional, but over time they deepened. Marianne noticed how he paid attention, not just to the words she said but to the meaning behind them. When she mentioned her favorite poem, he asked about it a week later. When she laughed at his jokes, he smiled with genuine delight. One rainy afternoon, the power went out at the library. Everyone rushed home, but Daniel stayed behind to help her lock up. She offered him a cup of coffee in the break room. They sat by the window as raindrops ran down the glass like quiet tears. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, "if there's more to life than what we're told to accept?" She paused, stirred her coffee, and then nodded. Not just because she wondered, but because she had forgotten how to ask that question out loud. From that day on, they met often. First at the library, then at a local bookstore, later at quiet cafes. They talked about everything. Art, music, old movies, forgotten dreams. Marianne didn't lie to her husband, but she stopped telling him the full truth. She would smile when Daniel texted her. Her eyes lit up when she saw him waiting outside. She didn't feel young again. She felt alive again. Their connection was emotional first. It was deep, slow-burning, and dangerously tender. The first time their fingers brushed, it was accidental. But neither pulled away. When he looked at her, it wasn't with desire alone. It was with admiration. He saw her, not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a woman. They kissed in her car. It was soft, hesitant, full of unspoken fear and longing. The kind of kiss that awakens something long buried, something wild, something honest. And yet, Marianne returned home each night, kissed her husband's cheek, and tucked herself into a bed that no longer felt like hers. She stared at herself in the mirror, sometimes for minutes, caught in a storm of guilt and awakening. She was cheating, emotionally, maybe physically, but more than anything she was remembering who she used to be, who she had sacrificed for the title of wife. Daniel never pushed her to leave Richard. He didn't beg. He didn't make promises. Instead, he reminded her that choices come with consequences. That desire doesn't always equal destiny. He respected her silence but gently reminded her that silence could also be a prison. Everything shifted one night during a family dinner. Her son, David, made a light-hearted joke. "Mom and Dad are like roommates now. Been married so long, they're just co-workers." Everyone laughed, even Richard. But Marianne didn't. 'Cause it was true. That night, after the dishes were done, she turned to her husband in the kitchen. Her voice was quiet, shaking. "Do you ever miss me?" she asked. He looked confused. "What do you mean?" he said. I mean, do you see me anymore? Do I still matter to you? He stood silent for far too long. And in that silence, she found her answer. A week later, Marianne sat Richard down and told him everything. About the friendship, the feelings, a kiss. She didn't blame him. She didn't excuse herself. She just told the truth. Richard didn't yell. He didn't throw anything or walk out. He sat there stunned. Then he said, "I thought we were fine. We didn't argue. We raised good kids. We did what we were supposed to." She looked at him with eyes full of sadness. "Yes, we did everything we were supposed to. But we stopped doing what we needed to." The days that followed were heavy, quiet, but not destructive. Surprisingly, they didn't break apart immediately. They talked more than they had in years. They went to counseling. Sometimes it felt like hope, other times like pretending. Daniel stepped away. Not with bitterness, but with grace. He said he cared too much to become the wrecking ball. Marianne respected that. She didn't jump from one relationship to another. Instead, she stepped into herself. She took long walks. She went back to writing. She even took a solo weekend trip, just to breathe in a new place. She and Richard remain under the same roof. They are no longer strangers, but they're not quite lovers either. They are rebuilding with honest bricks and uncomfortable truths. They are learning that love isn't only what you give, but what you nurture. And Marianne, she no longer lives in silence. She speaks her truth, even when her voice trembles. She smiles, not because she's hiding pain but because she feels free. Not because of Daniel. Not because of a new affair. But because finally she chose herself. This is not a story of betrayal. It is a story of awakening, of rediscovery, of a woman who lost herself in marriage, and found herself through love, through pain, and through honesty. Not every story ends with a perfect couple. But some stories begin when one woman finally whispers to her heart, "You still matter." Dear my families, what do you feel from this story? Please put your suggestion on the comment section. Thank you.